Hello, my lovely audience. This is gonna be my 5K special, and I've just gotta say this might be a little late, but I'm just gonna say this. Never thought I would actually be able to make it this far. Um, I actually was planning on canceling my channel, when I hit 5,000, when I was still at like 2,000 or 1,000. I was going through some stuff and I was thinking of canceling my channel because I was just not happy at the time, and yeah. But lately I've been feeling better about myself, and yeah, I kind of just see me canceling canceling the channel as like a silly idea, really stupid, and yeah. So yeah, I'm not gonna cancel anytime soon. I'm not gonna give up doing what I do anytime soon, or probably ever. And I just want to let you all know that. Um, yeah, but I was thinking of deleting my channel when I hit 5,000. But yeah. Anyways, let's get into the what if. Sorry if that made any of you cry, but still, needed to say that. So as the title says, this is what if Deku was Frankenstein. I got the idea way back when I started my channel. And I was thinking of ways how I could do it. First started off as Jason Voorhees, then it turned into Frankenstein. How it turned into Frankenstein was I got inspiration from a movie called I, Frankenstein. Check that movie out, it's really good. Really fast. I wish they made it like parts. Like this is act 1, this is act 2, this is act 3. But they rushed the movie and it was like ridiculous. That's all I gotta say about that. Anyways, so how this is gonna work is pretty simple. So Deku is going to be an all-for-one experiment in a way that is very unique and very strange. As in, he's abducted when he is just 10 years old, and, well, let's put it this way. Deku is going through hell. As in, what All For One is doing to him is very different compared to what he does to the Nomus. And just to be sure, I gotta make sure you guys can hear my voice. Yeah, you guys can hear my voice. Cool. Anyways, so basically he's doing something different to Deku. And that is, you know how, you know what mutation quirk is, right? Changes the body, all that shit. Basically, Tenya. Good example right there. How he has the engines on his calves. Basically, Deku's getting mutation-based quirks. And how he gets these is, well, seeing how this is a new project, he wants to kind of check the water a little bit and do it in a very more screwed up way without actually refining it at all. Basically, learn from your mistakes. And by mistakes he means Deku. And how he gets Deku is very simple. Find the most nearest quirkless kid or person, or someone that can survive the treatments, and yeah, we'll go from there. And what ends up happening here is this. Deku's abducted right in front of Bakugo, and Bakugo is completely unable to do anything. As in, Bakugo is completely held down to the ground, unable to use his quirk because someone has a sort of quirk-canceling ability around them. And I'm going to say that what ends up happening here is this. What ends up happening here is Deku's captured and never seen again. Now, I'm also going to say this. While Deku's gone, Bakugo is going through hell, thinking if he was stronger, he could have done something. And he keeps on trying to get stronger by using his quirk more and more, training, working out, everything, just so he can be strong enough to never have that happen again. And for what ends up happening next is this. Because Inko is a very nice mother and a very caring mother, having her son abducted and not knowing where he is and what god horrible things have happened to him, he's declared dead almost immediately when they find a burning car and some traces of his DNA in it, and also a corpse that is resembling his, stature and all that. But is Deku dead? Oh god, no. Basically what happened was this. They had to figure out a way to get rid of the cops on their trail. So they did that. I got the idea from Longmire. Don't ask. Anyways. For what ends up happening next is this. Deku is going through extreme experimentation. As in, he is going to be getting 3 quirks from this. One is he's going to be unable to feel any sort of pain. And how he gets that is he gets, I'm going to say his legs, he gets a few things replaced. As in, basically think of it like this. They're chopping off things and they're replacing them with other things, with other people's body parts. And Deku also has, let's put it this way. He's got a type of muscle quirk that enhances his muscles and strengthens them insanely. As in, let's put it this way. He can punch through a door and he can pretty much just walk through a door without any problems. You ever played Friday the 13th and play as Jason? Think of that just a lot quicker, kind of like the Juggernaut. And as for his other quirk, it is minor healing. Think Wolverine, just lesser healing factor. As in, he can't survive a nuke, and 3rd degree burns is going to take about 5 hours to heal. So there's that. Now, as for what is going to happen is this. Because of the trauma that he's experiencing, Deku isn't going to remember what happens next. Oh, and what happens next? Well, let's see here. When they're transmuting these quirks onto Deku, he dies on the operating table. Now, this is 3 years after he's been abducted because they had to gather these quirks. It's not easy to find mutation-based quirks and then easily, find a matching, body to put it on. So they're basically trying to see if they can make a new Nobu. And, what ends up happening here is this. Deku dies, and they see him as a waste. They try electrocuting him and giving him about 500 joules or volts or whatever of electricity, and still nothing. So, All For One has it that Kuriguri dumps him. So they wrap him up in a body bag and dump him just to insult the heroes. They dump him in front of UA, in a dumpster nearby UA. And after leaving, about an hour later, Deku wakes up. And he crawls out of his body bag. And basically, think of it like this. The body bag, he kind of broke through the plastic. And I think it's like a plastic leather or something. I can't remember what it's made of. Either way, he breaks through it from his feet and starts walking around in the street in a body bag with blood going out, like with bloody footprints. And I'm going to say what ends up happening here is this. Aizawa is on his way to work, aka, going to school and teaching some, high school students. And he sees, someone in a body bag walking around and people screaming. So he goes over to the scene and he sees what is basically the height of someone, I would say, who is 6 feet tall, and it doesn't look normal, as in, he looks very muscular and very, well, how do I put this? Looks like he's been training in the mountains. And immediately, Aizawa would say stop, and I'll have him stop pretty much right in front of him, and immediately Deku kind of like moves around trying to take off the body bag a bit more, and Aizawa would immediately take the zipper, unzipper it, and get him out of the body bag, realizing that he's naked, which then he would wrap him up in his scarf, and seeing that he is basically looks like a kid, because Deku's still a baby face, he would ask him, "Who are you?" And Deku's going to respond with, "I don't know." He does not know who the hell he is. And Aizawa would, not knowing what to do at this point, he asked him, "How old is he?" And he says he doesn't know. And what ends up happening here is this. Because police are going to arrest him, and seeing how he doesn't know who he is and how he's late to work, might as well bring him to work, because he's too lazy to wait on some cops, so he might as well have them wait for him when they're at UA. Besides, the recovery girl can do a blood analysis test to try and figure out who this guy is and where he came from. And what ends up happening here is this. They go to UA, and for what ends up happening next is very simple. Recovery girl does a few tests, tissue tests, and when she sees his body, she notices all the scars, as in full-on autopsy scars around his arms, and basically, let's put it this way, his limbs have been completely replaced, he's been opened up while conscious. You're wondering how he died on the operating table, there you go. And for what ends up happening here is this. Recovery Girl is immediately frightened by how many scars he has and how one is almost still healing in a way, as in it's looks like it's only been about a month old. Some have been only they've only been like about a day old, so they look about like a month old, these scars. And they look like they're not healing. They look like they're discolored, okay? And as in the arms and legs don't match the rest of his body's skin color. And what ends up happening here is this. She immediately does tissue tests to see what's going on here. And the legs and arms belong to two different people. And then when she did a tissue test on his muscular structure, came back as another person. But the blood results came back with one name. Izuku Midoriya, deceased. All of the people have been declared deceased. And seeing how the picture of a green-haired boy is striking a very close resemblance, she sees it that this is Izuku Midoriya. But what has happened to him is insane. As in, it says he was 10 when he was abducted, when he was declared dead. But with how the age should be, he should only be about 13 years old. And for what ends up happening here is this. Basically, Nezu is informed of this incident, and, immediately what ends up happening here is this. Nezu, Aizawa, and Recovery Girl decide on the spot that they're going to have him stay at UA for maybe a year tops, until they can find someone that can look after him. And they go through all this research while Deku is learning and getting used to his environment and slowly remembering like flashes before his eyes of the pain he felt and treatment he got. And Nezu, immediately noticing this, basically climbs up onto his lap and hugs him tightly and has him stroke his back. And that immediately calms Deku down. So much so that Deku hugs him tighter than Nezu can handle. And, well, they work on his strength for about 3 months and giving him proper training on how to control his abilities and measure what he has as abilities. And, well, let's put it this way. Deku is, they were able to catalog that he has 3 quirks, even though his records say that he was born quirkless, which still doesn't really make sense on how he has these quirks. So, seeing how that these were mutation-based quirks and how the muscle quirk worked, think of it as a symbiotic relationship. Gives him strength, but feeds off of him. You know what I mean? Symbiotic relationship. You know what it means, but anyways, it basically took over his entire musculatory system and killed him in the process, but then he woke up, so he's good. He'll be fine. That's where the autopsy scars come from. So yeah. Now, as for what happens next is very simple. Deku is going to be, he's going to be with Nezu for 3 months, and when those 3 months are ended, they found Izuku's mother. And not in the greatest place, either. She's in a mental ward. And, reason for that is she wasn't able to handle the passing of her son. It drove her a little off the edge. And she's informed that her son is alive and in the custody of the principal of UA, Nezu. And I would say that she's immediately relieved, and you're probably going to love this, everyone, but the place that she's been, quote-unquote, healing in, or getting treatment in, is the same place that Rei's getting treatment in, aka Todoroki's mother. Oh, and by the way, I should mention this, but Todoroki's a female, so have fun with that information. And for what ends up happening here is this. It was around when Deku was on his 2nd month, Inko was informed, and, she didn't really want to believe it until the 3rd month, and Deku pays a visit to her. And her seeing her son immediately makes her smile and run towards him, hugging him. The frail, skinny woman hugging her son, and him immediately having flashes and immediately remembering who she is, and mumbles just enough so she can hear, "Mom?" And immediately what ends up happening here is this. She says yes, and clings on to him. And she was informed that he does have some case of memory loss from some sort of trauma that he experienced when he was experimented on. And she holds him tightly, not letting go, saying that she missed him. And this time she'll never let anyone touch him again or hurt him ever again. And Deku sheds his tears that he's been holding back for a very long time, and cries into her shoulder. Now, what ends up happening here is this. Inko has made a very close friend in this this place of healing, as Endeavor would call it. And that person is Ray. So much so that Ray begged Endeavor to basically pay for Inko's treatment and let her stay there and even be, roommates. And, what ends up happening here is this. Ray and Inko are very close, and so much so when she sees Inko and Deku hugging and holding each other, she wishes that her son, Toya, was still alive. Only if she knew. And what ends up happening here is this. When she sees Deku, she immediately is reminded of Todoroki and how she was badly damaged because of her. And what ends up happening here is this. She's immediately, decides that, it would be a smart idea if maybe they were, to have a little bit of an engaged marriage. Thinking that, he will be able to heal this family that is terribly broken apart and also help Todoroki heal as well. Knowing about how she's completely closed herself off from her dad and, And for what ends up happening here is this. A year later passes and, Deku is going to be helping his mom pack up so she can move out of the place of healing and move back into a nice apartment that is provided by UA as a way of, trying to help them get back on their feet. And also helps Inko find a job that will provide enough money for Deku and herself, and providing for the new place. Better yet, I'll say that the whole place is covered by UA, because while Deku was remembering, he also told Nezu what he remembered, and, Nezu comes to the conclusion that the person who did this to him is none other than All For One. And he would then decide that it would be a good idea to bring up a candidate for the next successor of One For All. And he thinks it over very hard and very quietly. And I would say the more and more information he learns is that, they were discussing another treatment besides the giving him quirks, and that was going to be the brainwashing if he turned out to be successful. And for what ends up happening here is this. Nezu is worried because he believes that there is a type of monstrous creations that this monster has created, this devil of a man has created, and he believes that missing people with, quirks that have been going, people suddenly becoming quirkless, isn't just, isn't, I guess you could say, good at all. And for what ends up happening, here's this. All Might is immediately going to be training Deku when he gets, gets back with his mom. But when they are leaving, and Deku is, they're basically still packing, Endeavor has been told about the engaged marriage, and, the forced marriage, or whatever you want to call it. And basically, he's happy about it because he's seen the strength of Deku. He's heard about the strength of Deku and how he's able to pretty much, if he were to get even further training, he could probably rival All Might. So he doesn't see a problem with Deku, taking his daughter and, all that. And also hearing about how it could heal Todoroki in this family. he thinks it'd be a lot more help than anything else. As in, he very much wishes that everything went back to normal and he didn't do what he did. And yeah. So as for what ends up happening next is very simple. Deku, well, he's there helping his mother pack, and Endeavor forces Todoroki to come along with him to the hospital to meet his mother and her future husband. And her being pissed at her dad and her mother that they would arrange this and only tell her at the last second, she feels like she has the need to stand up to this person, whoever he may be. And for what ends up happening here is this. When Deku is going to the bathroom, he bumps into Todoroki, and, well, she immediately gets love at first sight, Deku not seeing her. And she immediately falls for Deku, not realizing that is who she's going to be, well, engaged to. And, well, what ends up happening here is this. What ends up happening here is when she gets the room, she's thinking, if only, I hope that my husband is someone like him. If not, I am not going to at all, well, even try for this relationship. If it was him, definitely. And when they hear that, well, he was just going to the bathroom, and when Deku comes back, Todoroki basically leaning against the wall, very pissed, waiting for her, well, husband that she is going to quote-unquote stand up on and pretty much say no to this relationship at all. And for what ends up happening here is this. Basically, when Deku walks in the room, he immediately falls in love at first sight with Todoroki, seeing the scar as beautiful. And what ends up happening here is this. She immediately blushes like crazy and turns into a, what is it called again? Fuck. Crap, I can't find it. Kuderi. Yeah, a Kuderi. And, well, yeah, she turns into a Kuderi. And, well, yeah, yeah, she turns into a Kuderi almost immediately. And is trying to show a very cold expression, but is almost a blushing mess inside almost, and is freaking out, panicking. And Deku, just caught, well, mesmerized by her, immediately snaps out of it when Rei says that she would like to introduce him to her daughter, Shoto Todoroki, your soon-to-be wife, hopefully. And immediately, Deku agrees to these terms, and Todoroki says, fine, and storms out, and immediately is a blushing mess when she's outside, and her heart is pounding, leaning against the wall, crying into her arms. Now, as for what happens next, is this. Deku is brought back into school, and he's not going to school with Todoroki because Todoroki is going to an all-girls school. And that school has, well, she's best friends with Momo there. And, well, Deku gets to see a familiar face, and that is Bakugo. And Bakugo immediately hugs him when he comes back, saying he missed him, and he's, oh shit, I should probably shake my headset off. No, it is not. Crap, this is how it dies. There we go. Anyways. So yeah, Deku immediately is hugged and told that he missed him. Well, he was missed by Bakugo, and immediately flashes surge through his mind, very painful ones and sad ones, where he was bullied and, well, he was best friends with Bakugo, and he says, stuttering a little bit, Kachan? And Bakugo, well, he immediately tenses up a little bit before hugging Deku even tighter. And Deku hugging back, holding him even tighter in his arms. Bakugo saying that you got taller, what happened to you? And he says, experimentation. And Bakugo laughs, saying, good one. And holds him tighter. Now, for the next few years, as in for the next year, when he basically, that whole 11 months of training rolls around, Deku's already getting the training, more like 12 months of training, and basically this is what's happening. So, All Might has been training Deku once he turned 14, and what the training is, well, he's getting trained by, well, he gets the quirk almost instantly because Nezu would say that this is his candidate for One for All that he suggests giving to him, and suggests that he is trained by your old mentor, Gran Torino, on how to use such a powerful quirk. And if anyone has a better reason for going against any villains, it is him. For he was turned into, well, in some standards, a monster. As in, he cannot feel any, well, pain at all. And, well, he's barely changed from how he was found. And All Might would basically hear all the details and everything. And, well, he would be very much interested and also finding that the quirks that he has already are very strong, as in extremely strong. And, well, how do I put it? All Might pretty much almost immediately gives over One for All, almost immediately. And, well, what happens next is, well, Deku gets One for All, and it boosts his everything he has quite a lot, all of his quirks, almost immediately, as in he goes through another puberty. And by the time he's 15, he's basically 6 feet tall entirely. Yes, before he was like 5'5", now he's like 6 feet tall. So, yeah. And, well, let's see here. Gran Torino, seeing how he's training him, he teaches him how to use full cowling very quickly. And what does this quirk, was One for All enhance on Deku? Quite a few things, actually. Not only does it give him the stockpiling quirk, but it also gives him, well, something really fun. And that is this. Basically, his muscles have now, seeing how his muscular structure works and how everyone's works, covers your entire body. And, well, his entire bones have actually been increased, as in, well, their density is a lot higher, and they're about the same weight as before, it's just that they're much more dense. As in, you're not going to be able to bite his motherfucking finger off, because you're most likely going to break your tooth before you even do anything. As in, he can do about a full punch and probably just fracture his arm and only bruise his muscle a little bit. And a fracture is going to pretty much heal up in about like 30 minutes, maybe an hour. So, yeah. And his pain tolerance, well, it went from feeling some pain to feeling almost zero and actually only feeling a numbing pain. That's about it. Now, as for what ends up happening next, is this. All Might was pretty much against giving him One for All from the beginning, but mostly what was telling him to give it to him was, well, he was seeing how his quirk wouldn't go out of control or have a quirk malfunction if he gave him one for all, it was the best choice. And seeing how he owes Nezu a favor because of the teaching job, because I doubt you can get in without a teaching license. Just give me a second real quick. And just gotta open this bottle of water real quick. Takes 2 hands. Not one. That's better. Alright, let's get back into this. So, for what ends up happening next is this. Deku is going to be, well, how do I put it? Let's see here. Very terrifying in a way because he's extremely overpowered in this what if. And how much percentage should he be able to use? I'm going to say that he's going to be able to use... Well, he's going to be starting... He can use about, 40 or 50%, but he starts out using only 15% because he heard that it can break his, arms and stuff. But after getting used to it, he can handle up to about 50 to 40%. Of course, he's going to be working out quite a lot and doing a lot more than he actually has to. But yeah, he's starting out at a very, very high percentage than he was before in the actual anime. And for what ends up happening next is this. Deku, almost immediately, let's see here. He is going to... Well, let's see here. The arranged marriage is already set. Both Todoroki and Deku are engaged. And Deku's met the family. So there's that. And he's happy. He's actually cracked a smile a few times with Todoroki, going on a few dates. And yeah, basically spending, just having a lot of fun, really. And Todoroki's smiling every time she's with him and leaning on him. And slowly opening up to her dad and mother by visiting her early on than in the, in canon. And, what happens here is this. What happens here is that Deku is going to, let's see here. Had this all planned out. So, he's going to have to get to the entrance exam, and they're not going to give him a special recommendation. No, they're going to give him the full-on entrance exam. And how well does he do? He passes Ida in the speed and the practical exam, but in the written exam, he pretty much aces it because he's been, getting a lot of help with studying from Bakugo and has pretty much caught up to Bakugo's area very quickly. Not really needing to worry about training too much because of his, physical ability already. And when Deku encounters, the robots, he immediately smashes through them using full cowling and running past them all. And I would say that he has a metal shard in his arm, doesn't even feel it, and when Ida points it out, he just takes it and rips it out, having Ida immediately have his stomach quelch a little bit and immediately have his arm actually start hurting from just seeing that. He could kind of feel the pain and immediately sees that the injury is kind of it just doesn't slow him down. And he immediately thinks that he's a monster. And how is someone like that going to be even considered to go to UA? And what he ends up seeing next is when everyone else is running away, Deku charges forward and punches that 0-pointer in the head, sending it flying and down into the buildings and into a bunch of other robots. And then when Deku lands, he lands kind of like a superhero landing and grabs the rubble off of, grabs Araka and immediately gets her out of there and carries her to Recovery Girl. And while Deku, I would say that Recovery Girl would have to do a full analysis on Deku, saying that he's feeling a bit of numbing pain and how hurt she knows about what he's had to go through. She gives him a quick kiss and also heals up Araka. And, what ends up happening here is this. Basically, think of it like this. He immediately just walks it off. And for what ends up happening next is, Deku is going to, how do I put it? He's going to, he's going to get accepted almost immediately and put into Class 1A. Mainly because they have to, with One for All and all that, but they didn't expect him to do all that. So they're kind of amazed and shocked by how powerful he is. Nezu clapping his hands and proud as all hell. And for what ends up happening next is this. Deku gets the acceptance letter, and now he goes to UA, and the first day of school is very simple. Todoroki sends him a text saying that they're in the same class, Class 1A, and that they should probably pair up as a study group, and that her good friend Momo, which I say Deku would probably have met a few times, is going to be there as well. And I would say that Momo has told Deku one thing once, and it was that I'm happy to see Todoroki smile for once. With all the time that I've been with her, I've never seen her smile ever. Especially when she's around men. And you being in her life is good. Now, for what ends up happening next is this. Deku, when he enters Class 1A, he sees Bakugo and he immediately smiles and says, it's good seeing you here as well, nerd. And what ends up happening next is, Deku takes the seat right in front of Todoroki and just waits for class to begin. Ito watching Deku with very, how I put it, basically he's staring right at him and only at him. And Araka goes over to him and says thank you and starts crushing a little bit on Deku. Todoroki noticing this and immediately goes up to Deku and gives him a slight, about to give him a slight peck on the cheek until it turns into a full-blown kiss when Deku turns his head and kisses her on the lips and gives a slight smirk, and immediately she goes from Kuderi to Tsundere and immediately goes back to her seat, blushing completely. And what ends up happening next is all the girls, except Momo and Todoroki, are all going, what just happened? And did that really just happen? Seeing how he pretty much knows. And also I would say that Todoroki would have said something when she was going back to her desk, saying, becoming more sly and more sly every day, and getting no, I would say that picked up a new trick from Bakugo, and immediately walks off and goes back to her seat, and immediately so those two, they're all going like, they definitely know each other. And who's this Bakugo? And Deku, just looks over to Bakugo, and Bakugo just smirks and gives him a thumbs up. And everyone else is going like, oh, that's Bakugo. Alrighty. And for what ends up happening next is this. For the, what is it called? The physical exam that Aizawa gives, where he expels one student, and we already know who it's going to be. It is going to be Mineta. And Deku gets a very high score. I mean, like, first in everything but the ball throw. And yeah. And for what ends up happening next is this. What ends up happening next is, well, how do I put it? Basically, everyone's terrified of him. And also, when he was changing in the locker rooms, everyone saw his full-on scars, and even Bakugo was actually caught off guard by his scars. And when Deku sees Mineta peeping on the girls' locker room, and Mineta sees Todoroki naked, he immediately says, ooh, the scarred girl's pretty hot. And that's when Deku immediately turns his head, and pretty much almost like eyes going full on red, he grabs Mineta and pushes his head through the... Well, actually, no, I want to say that he says something first. He says, hey, Mineta, you want to get a better view? And Mineta immediately turns to Deku and sees a very terrifying grin on his face. And immediately shakes his head yes, without even thinking. And Deku takes his head and smashes it through the wall, having his head on the other side where the peeping hole was, now making a peeping glory hole, I would say, for probably someone with a very, I don't know, like locker-sized wang-tang, wing-a-ding-ding-dong. And what ends up happening here is this. What ends up happening here is, well, Todoroki immediately knows who did that to the perv, and immediately is congratulating him through a text when she's putting her clothes away. And, well, what ends up happening next is this. Aizawa comes into the into the locker room and asks what's going on. And immediately covering his view from the girls' locker room, and Mineta basically counting behind Aizawa, asking why did Deku smash his head through a wall. Mind you, Aizawa knows, he knows what kind of person Deku is. And immediately when Deku says that he was perving on his girl, that's when Aizawa turns to Aizawa. Well, Aizawa turns to Aizawa. Yes, there's two Aizawas. No, he turns to Mineta, and he then gives him a death glare and says, "You're expelled." And immediately, the pervert is expelled. And no one else is expelled but him. And for what ends up happening next is this. Deku, for the Heroes versus Villain exam, because we gotta have this. Let's see here. For the Heroes versus Villain exam, Deku is going to be teamed up with Todoroki. And immediately, the two of them, how do I put it? They have a challenge to see who gets done with it all first. And who are they facing? Bakugo and Momo. And what ends up happening here is this. Momo has completely barricaded the entire place, and Bakugo has completely has his few traps set up around the area with his grenades that are like aerosol cans. And, well, how do I put it? Aerosol cans and lighters. So think about that for a second. And for what ends up happening here is this. Todoroki freezes the entire place, encasing the entire room in ice. And Deku and them walk into the room together. And Deku immediately talking to Todoroki saying, why do you not use your fire side? I almost never see you use it. And she immediately freezes up for a bit, and Deku picks her up and says that if you use your fire side this one time for me, I'll give you a special treat. And what ends up happening next is this. She lights the entire room on fire and blows up all the traps, and Deku shields her from it. And has the entire room pretty much like a boiler at this point. Basically, Bakugo and Momo are basically about to forfeit because of their amount of heat that they're experiencing while being kind of cooked alive in there. And that's when they kind of are on the ground trying to breathe because all the air is being, well, burned up. And what ends up happening next is simple. The heat stops and they're kind of just still cooking because of the heat that's already in there. And, well, what ends up happening here is this. Bakugo's gauntlets explode because of the amount of heat that's in there. It kicks off his nitroglycerin. And what ends up happening next is this. Bakugo takes off his gloves immediately, and, well, his gauntlets, and immediately Momo gets, I would say, water bottles? Like, could she create those? Either way, she gets them and puts on Bakugo's hands and pours it all over him. And when Deku comes breaching in, Bakugo instinctively tries to explode, but now that his hands are covered in water, cold water, and how he can't create explosions because his nitroglycerin is mixed in with the water and it's just not going to work. He immediately throws his aerosol can and Todoroki sets it on fire, having it explode and launch Bakugo sliding into the ground. And Momo tries to run up and try and punch Todoroki, but Deku grabs her hand and twists her, and her, trying to tense up her arm, immediately goes with it. And, well, better yet, I'm going to say that he just grabs her and throws her into the wall. And they touch the bomb and win. That's the heroes versus villains. As for the USJ, well, this is a little more interesting. What happens with the USJ is going to be this. Actually, better yet, I think we've covered a lot of ground, actually. So, I'm going to say that I'm going to save the USJ for later. And Deku's hero costume is going to be getting some work because it is not... Well, he couldn't really bring what he wanted to bring with him because he was practicing... Well, he was trying to... You'll know what I mean. Basically, he was... He couldn't wear his actual hero suit because it was still being, made and all that, so they had to give him, like, a t-shirt and a, basically a UA t-shirt, or sweatshirt, really, and a mask. And that's basically what his hero suit was for there, with bunny ears. And for what ends up happening next is this. For the next part of this What If, you're going to have to wait until I'm done with the Miracle App Store. Maybe then I'll do another part. But yes, this was the Frankenstein What If, and also the one you guys voted for because I did say, do you want me to go to a graveyard and resurrect a dead and crusty What If? And this is literally a dead and crusty What If, as in no one has done it, and I'm amazed no one has touched Frankenstein, because god damn it, it is Frankenstein. How old do you have to be to know what Frankenstein is? Anyone can know what Frankenstein is. I think I know more people that know what Frankenstein is than My Hero Academia. Anyways, have a good day and a good night, and peace out.